Hi everyone, this is Stephen Wright again. I'm a systems engineer at cars.com, and in this lesson I'm going to go over importing a virtual machine appliance that I created for training purposes. I actually created the appliance using Fedora Core 11. I liked Fedora Core just because it's a newer version of Red Hat Enterprise, but most of the companies that I've worked for have used some version of Red Hat for their Linux installations. So I just thought I'd be consistent with that kind of distribution. Not that there's anything wrong with running one of the Debians or Ubuntu's or Linux Mint. So to begin, there was a link on the wiki page for the Fedora Core training appliance. Hopefully, I'm going to assume that you've already downloaded that because it is a rather large file. It's around 2 gigs. So I'm going to actually import that now. I'm going to find the file that I downloaded. And when I created this appliance, I created saving the manifest that I used. So for this particular virtual machine, I had 2 CPUs out of the 4 that were available for my host. I used 2 instead of all 4 just because 2 seemed to be enough for a training virtual machine, and that still left 2 CPUs for the hypervisor, so it wouldn't completely bog down the host operating system. I gave it 2 gigs of RAM. 2 gigs is more than enough for a lot of Linux machines, especially if you're not really running a lot of web servers or databases. I use a lot of the standard peripherals like a USB controller, sound controller, the network adapter, and we'll definitely go into how the network adapters configured once we install the application. I mean the virtual machine. And when it actually imports the appliance, it will create a VDI disk. This is where it will save everything for me. So we're just going to go import, and it's importing everything. This might take a minute. Okay, now that that's all done, we can actually go through and look at some of the settings for our virtual machine that was installed from the appliance. So I'm going to go to Settings, and here we can see it did pick up the name of Fedora 21. The type is Linux. It's a version of Red Hat. And here are some of the settings that I always just set. This is where the snapshot folder will be. Snapshots are a really cool feature of Oracle VirtualBox. They allow you to really take a snapshot of your machine. You can do whatever you need to, and if you screwed it up, you can roll it back to a previous state. That isn't available in VMware Player. I always use share clipboard between host to guest, and I disable drag and drop. I haven't really had a big need for it, but this is all personal preference. There might be need for somebody else. Um, I enable removable media, show minibar when I'm in full screen mode, and show the minibar at the top when I'm in full screen. For the System tab, this is really important. You can see I've allocated 2 gigs of memory for this virtual machine. You can change that as you need it. That should be enough for this particular appliance. And I've allocated 2 CPUs, 2 cores out of the 4 that are available on my laptop. And you really always want to enable 100% execution cap and extended features. You want to enable PAE and NX, and always make sure hardware virtualization options are enabled. For the network, I set the network as NAT. This is usually the easiest option for kind of a testing virtual machine. It doesn't really create a whole network interface on your network for your virtual machine. It'll kind of just have like a hidden network interface. It can still basically go out to the rest of the world and to the internet, but nothing can really access your virtual machine. So it kind of makes it all a little bit hidden for you. And I just left a lot of the other settings as default. You can play around with those as needed. So let's start this up. And it's really amazing how fast a virtual machine actually starts up. Say there it is, it's already booted. Now it's going to start booting the kernel. And as you can see, we're already at the login prompt. We're going to log in as the Linux user, and the password is Linux123. It's not a big secret. And as you can see here, we have our whole Linux desktop environment. I've installed a lot of like the default applications that I've used. You can have your terminal available, file manager. I always use Firefox. Chrome is always an option for a lot of people, just personal preference. And with this version of Firefox, you do have Flash and Java that are installed. Um, I always use Vim for a lot of my editing, and this is just a very simple music player. For you Java developers, Eclipse has been installed. I'm not very familiar with it, but I know it's probably one of the best Java developer environments out there, so we did install that for you. But I encourage you to give this a shot and start playing around. Ruby and Perl should be installed on here by default as well. And as always, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to one of the system administrators and or anybody who you think would be a good resource to learn more about Linux. So thank you very much.